Hey, this is Jerry Flowers, and you're watching the Midwest Mixtape Podcast.
Hi, and welcome to the Midwest Mixtape Podcast, live from the Barn Studio. You got the Mox here, and I'm joined by my co-host today. We got Dylan from Golden Eagle Entertainment, and we're joined with a special guest, Mr. Jerry Flowers, songwriter, bass player, badass musician, and I think known as the up-tempo guy. Jerry, how are you, man?
I'm good. How you doing, man?
Doing really good. Thanks for joining us today. Really excited to have this conversation and really, I hope, dive deep into the songwriting process, which is something I'm always interested in. I mentioned the up-tempo thing as sort of a joke, but I did hear on a podcast that that's sort of like, that's what you're, I guess, maybe known for in a lot of the ways.
Yeah,
songwriting world.
kind of. Yeah, I mean, I spent so many years on tour, on stage that, I just saw the how important the up tempos were, and I just kind of naturally go there. So a lot of artists, when I work with them, they tend to have me do that.
Well, it's kind of interesting. Me and my family went down to the river to do some fishing and some, just having fun at the river. And one of my favorite summer songs that my family loves too, we play it all the time, is Raised on It by Sam Hunt.
Oh, wow. Nice.
Yeah. So
old school.
Yeah, so a couple days later, Dylan reached out to me and said, "Hey, man, I really want to connect you with Jerry Flowers and talk about it." And so he sent me your media kit, and his Raised on It was on it. And I was like, "Oh, we were just listening to that song."
That's funny. That was the first song I ever wrote with Sam Hunt.
Yeah, and like I love that. And I know you come from a small town, and we're in a small town as well. And I think what I love about it is, I mean, one, it's catchy as hell, right? So that's ultimately going to catch the ear first, but it's just painting a perfect picture of small town life, right? Like with the headlights on and just the way you guys sort of did the storytelling or painting the picture of small town life. I think it was beautiful. And I think that's why I love the song so much.
Thanks, man. Yeah, that to me is one of my favorites that I've ever written with him. Again, it's my first time writing with him. And at that point, he didn't have a record deal, anything really happening. But as soon as I wrote with him that first day, we knew I knew I was part of something special, and that one took probably 2 or 3 times getting together, and working on every single word. And he's just so good. He's probably the best artist songwriter I've ever been around.
In what way?
Man, he just, for one, he does something that a lot of people don't do. He edits, he rewrites. And, songs can take 3, 4, 7, a year and a half to write with him. But he's just never satisfied until it's just right. And he just keeps going back in and just tweaking every little thing. And not a lot of people do that right now because our schedules it's tough because most writing schedules, we write from about 11 a.m. to about 4. And people's schedules are hard to get back together. So we usually try to write the whole song in that day. But for him, he just takes his time and he just gets it right. And I personally think like so many of the songs that we grew up loving, they were written like that more than just like really, really quickly. And that I think that's why his stuff stands out.
I heard a small clip about somebody that was working with Eminem, and he would like check in at 8 in the morning and check out at 5 o'clock, no matter what they were in the middle of or what they were
really
working on. And I think people sometimes when you talk to songwriters, they say you just have to let it come. You have to let it come to you. You have to be kind of patient with it and sort of be the conduit from the song to what ends up people hearing. And but I think there's a lot, and maybe Nashville's this way, and the songwriting world's this way, is it's a lot like work. Like not necessarily you're not motivated and you're not inspired, but I think there is a sort of work-like mentality in songwriting, and maybe you can expand on that.
Yeah, I mean, actually, I never heard that about Eminem, but I just what I know about him, he definitely, it's like a muscle for him, and he has to keep working. And really, that's what it's like for songwriters here too. It's just it's a muscle. You have to just keep going and going and going and going. And it's like, it's just hard to, you can't just wait for something to hit you or flow through you. You just have to be in the room in the moment. And I'm still amazed after all these years of doing it that, like, especially if we get something really really good, it'll hit me. It's like, this didn't exist this morning. Nothing about this existed at 10 o'clock this morning. And here we are walking away with this song. And it's a pretty amazing process, but it's work. You have to do it all the time.
You hear a lot of people talk about they only write from maybe a first person perspective or about their life.
Mm-hmm.
And some people are storytellers. And maybe there's a little bit of both in that. Do you lean one way or the other? Or what's your, I guess, maybe if we're talking lyrics specifically, what's your writing style as far as that goes?
Lyrically, for me, I know my strengths in this business. After doing it for so many years, and there's guys in town that are like just pure poets, incredible lyricists. And my thing personally is way more on the energy side of things. I'm always trying to kick it off with riffs and melodies and hooks. And, a lot of times I'll have, titles, and then I can dig in. I find lyrically I'm much stronger when I'm doing a two-way write, where it's just two of us. When you get into 3 and 4, I tend to definitely kind of step back and take over my musical role more than anything else. But it's as far as like the first person thing, that's really happened here in the last probably 10, 15 years. Like, and I kind of miss a lot of the old school ways, whereas they were storytellers and they didn't have to sing about their lives. And that's what made it more interesting. Garth Brooks and all these different guys from the 90s, they had like story songs. Look at Reba McEntire, Fancy. Like, no one thinks she was a prostitute, but she's singing a song about it, like a story about that. And to me, I miss that a little bit, and I'm hoping that'll come back, soon. I think I'm starting to see it a little bit more.
I always kind of talk about this as my best ideas either come when I'm in the shower or when I'm mowing my yard. And I think it's when I'm sort of turning my brain off and maybe kind of tapping into that creative element that's in there somewhere.
I think that's what happens. Yeah.
Yeah, and sort of like we're talking about, with kind of letting the idea flow through you. When and where do you mostly get your ideas? Is it, when you meet somebody and have that conversation with them, or do you kind of come into it with an idea?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of times, especially if you're working with an artist, you're sitting down with them and hanging out and talking for a good 45 minutes to an hour before anything gets written. And so then you kind of hear their stories, and a lot of times, ideas will come from that. And a lot of times for me, I'll just be driving around with nothing on, no music on, just in silence. And that's when things will hit me a little bit more. Longer drives.
Random question, Jerry. So, like, obviously you've had a ton of, songs that you've written. Have you ever had a song impact you in like your personal life, as far as like being from like a small town, people go, where in the hell did you come up with that idea, or why did you write that? And the reason I asked, like a small example, Bobby Braddock wrote Time Marches On, which Tracy Lawrence cut, and Tracy Lawrence said several times, he said, I had no idea the impact that song would have on my personal life back home. He's like, there's a line in the song, Daddy had a girlfriend in another town. He said, like, what that did to like my family, my parents. He said, it's something I never even thought about, because people take it so literally. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny. Like when I'm in the room writing with people, it's like we almost create like a fictional kind of world a lot of times. Sure. If you're writing with an artist, you definitely want to focus more on what's going on with them. But like, to me, the one that the hit that I've had that meant the most to what I was going through at the time was a song called Chasing After You. It was a Ryan Hurd and Maren Morris song. Yeah. And I wrote that with Brinley Addington. And that day was just one of those rare days that, I've told the story before. He was running late, and that was my first time meeting him. And normally, you know, you get to hang out with the writer for a long time, and then you know, then start the process. He accidentally he heard me playing that riff. He heard it through the door when he was walking in, and he just said, "Hey, I'm Brindley. What's that? Let's write that." And so we just went straight into it. And at that point, the girl that I was dating at the time, which ended up being my wife, now my ex-wife, but we were just a lot going back and forth, breaking up, making up, breaking up. And so that one was really, really personal to me because, you know, I love Chasing After You. I did. Like, it's just everything about that song was exactly what I was living at the time.
Wow.
And so that's one. As far as one that had impact on my town, like I don't really know, man. You know, Raised on It is one of those, but to be honest, like I was nowhere near as cool as Sam Hunt when I was young as he was when he was young. So I didn't have a lot of those same experiences that he did. So, but Chasing After You is the one that meant a lot to me.
I doubt any were as cool as he was back then.
Is it true, Jerry? Like, I think I heard this in an interview one time, a long time ago, that you actually tossed Chasing After You, I guess, to Keith first, and he passed on it and kind of said, is that true?
Yeah. I sent it to him right after I wrote it, and I did a demo where I'm playing everything, a real simple demo, and I sent it to him basically I said, "Hey, who do you think I should pitch this to?" Because I never thought he would like it, because it was a little more on the R&B, you know, soul side of things. My melodies, that's what I tend to do more, just from the music I grew up loving. And I said, "Hey, do you have any ideas who I can pitch this to?" And he just wrote back in about 4 minutes after I sent it. He goes, "Me!" Like, you know, exclamation. And so then he took it and recorded it, and he was wanting to get Pink to sing it with him at that time. And then it just didn't, for some reason, it just didn't work. He got pretty far with it in the recording process, and then decided it didn't fit his style. So it didn't make the record. And then it just set for years. It was 6 years old when it actually became a hit.
Wow.
Yeah. But he was
such an amazing song, you know. So I mean, truly,
I appreciate it.
Gosh.
Thanks, man. I get more reaction from that than anything I've ever been a part of. And I mean, there was a lot of songs that have sat for years and years and years, and you think, how did that happen? Like, you know, Rascal Flatts, What Hurts the Most? I think that was about 7 years old. God Bless the Broken Road was another one that was 7 years old. When you hear those, you go, how did that sit for all those years? Because people were still hearing it. With my song, it was my demo became kind of popular around town. So they would send that to different publishers, and it became a thing, and people really liked it, but no one would record it until Ryan Hurd came around. And Ryan and Brindley were friends from way back. So he's the one that got it to Ryan, thank God. But it's hard to say what works. I mean, I think, I can't remember the song, but Chris Stapleton just had a big hit last year that was like 11 years old that he wrote. Wow. You know, and you think, how was that sitting there for 11 years, you know? Yeah. But it happens a lot. It's a wacky business that after all these years, I still kind of struggle to even understand, you know?
Yeah. Talk about a powerhouse, you know, and a guy that was underrated for so long, you know, behind the scenes, you know?
Oh, yeah. Oh, my God. I actually wrote with Chris Stapleton in 2004 for the first time. And I saw him maybe 2 years ago at an event for the record label at the Ryman. And I went up and kind of introduced myself. I said, "Hey, I'm Jerry Flowers." He goes, "I know who you are. We wrote in 2004. Then he said, the song was called Caroline. We wrote a song called Caroline. I was like, how do you remember that after all those years? But I will say, when I wrote with him that day, all those years ago, it was 2004, 2005, something like that around. He was badass. I remember being in the room like, who the hell is this dude? His voice was insane back then. He looked a lot different. He had a crew cut, like a haircut, much closer to mine. Big dude, at that point, kind of a scary looking dude with a shaved head. But man, what a voice. Just talk about a gift from God.
And isn't it true that like in Nashville, it was no secret that this guy was a generational talent. It was the worldwide stage that hadn't picked up on it yet. Like in Nashville, he was well known in the Nashville.
Oh, yeah. Scene. Oh, absolutely. Everybody knew his name. And he had written hits for other people. But yeah, he had never had his chance. And I guess it was the Justin Timberlake performance. I can't remember what was that, a Grammys or something? I can't remember what it was, but it was that from that moment on, the world knew. But yeah, Nashville is known for a long time.
I'm sure you kind of being in that world know tons of people like that, where you think that they should get there, or they're just waiting in for the right moment in time to get their break.
Oh yeah, yeah, definitely. I mean, Keith Urban was here for 10 years before he had his first hit. You know, that happens all the time, man. Lainey Wilson was, I think, 12 years in Nashville before she had her first hit. People don't think about that kind of stuff. They think they're overnight successes, but they rarely are. I mean, there's some that get lucky and, you know, and hit really quickly. Bailey Zimmerman is one of those. He just connected with people super fast, but that's pretty rare, you know.
The music world just a couple of days ago took a major loss, and we lost Brian Wilson of the Beach Boys. We're talking about songwriting and storytelling, and a lot of people put him on the Mount Rushmore of that list with John Lennon and Paul McCartney.
Yeah,
you know, maybe
he might be one of the best. Yeah,
if you could talk about him a little bit, but then also talk about who influenced your storytelling, your songwriting.
He, for me personally, from melodically, the stuff that I loved growing up, Brian Wilson was one of the ultimate writers. Like, the stuff really doesn't sound like anybody, and it never has and never will. He's just, you know, people say the word genius, but he was definitely that. For me personally, growing up, I was really like, you know, I'm a child of the 80s. So my first group that really changed my whole life was Van Halen. I was obsessed with Eddie Van Halen and Michael Anthony, Alex Van Halen, all of them. My whole wall was completely covered in Van Halen posters. And I still love them so much. They're still like one of the greatest rock bands, I think, ever. But they moved me from a young age. My brother Randy is an incredible guitar player, and our older brother Scott, who was kind of the first one to play guitar, they were the ones that would play Van Halen records around the house. And I just became obsessed with those guys. And then, you know, I loved Ozzy. I loved Iron Maiden. Those kind of groups were big where I grew up. But then around, I guess it was around 9th grade, my friend Matt Vaughn gave me a cassette tape of Prince, Sign of the Times. I think that was in, I don't know when he made that, 1985 maybe. And that, I'd never heard anything like that, because we lived maybe half a mile away from each other. So I would walk through the woods to get to his house. We're from a little town called Pinch in West Virginia. And that walk from his house to my house through the woods, hearing that Prince record, it's like it just changed everything in my brain. I'd never heard that kind of music before. I didn't grow up around that. I grew up in a pretty rural kind of background. And then from that album, really, I started kind of branching out and learning about all the older school R&B singers. Prince was number one for me, then Stevie Wonder. But then people like Otis Redding, Sam Cooke, Bill Withers, people like that. That kind of changed my whole life. And I was really deep into that for a long time until I moved to Nashville, really. And then I met Keith Urban right after I moved here. I started playing with him maybe 6 months after I moved here. And he's the one that really schooled me on all the old school country artists because he grew up obsessed with country. He only knew country. And so he's the one that taught me about Merle Haggard and Don Williams and people like that. So, and really, once I learned about those guys, I saw how connected the old school R&B and soul music was to country music. Same basic feel, same basic stories, and it all came from the soul, you know.
Yeah, and you obviously spent 25 years in the Keith Urban band and with Keith Urban.
Yeah.
I think you guys started out as maybe a 3-piece, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It was called The Ranch. Actually started out, it was called 4-Wheel Drive at first. And then we changed it to the Ranch. Yeah, so I met him right after I moved to town. My brother was starting to get some jobs playing some commercials, playing guitar on jingles, and he had met a guy named Mike Smith who was friends with Keith, and Keith had just moved to Nashville not long before that. And he told my brother, "Hey, I got this Australian friend that needs a bass player. Do you know anybody?" And so my brother recommended me. Then I went over to their house. They lived, Keith and the drummer Pete Clark and the manager Greg Shaw all lived together in this rough house, rough area. And so I just got together with him and had a jam in their basement. He had a little PA system in his basement. And then it was on, like, immediately from the first song. He wanted me to join him, and I ended up going to Australia with him a few weeks later. I was there for like 6 months and just, playing every bar up and down the coast of Australia. So it was an experience. We struggled for a long time, and we definitely paid our dues.
Yeah, with Keith's guitar playing specifically, and why I bring up the 3-piece is he's a virtuoso. He can just play amazingly. But I think when you have a player like that, the rhythm section has to be on point, because you are driving the song. So he's going to go off and do, guitar virtuoso things, but you guys have to hold it down. That tightness comes with experience and with practice and playing with each other. And I guess maybe talk about that, how you become almost a one unit with the rhythm section.
Yeah, I mean, to me, the drummer and the bass player have to be connected. And with that, especially with the 3-piece, because we were known to have a much bigger sound than most trios were. We worked out things where I'm playing chords, I'm playing big fifths and filling up space while Keith is doing his thing. But really, it was all more about us playing constantly. We played. We played 1,000 shows. I mean, before he ever was known. That first 6 months in Australia with him, we just had this, our manager, Greg Shaw, his mom lent us her car, and we rented a little trailer in the back, and we just went up and down the coast of Australia playing bars, clubs every night of the week. And so we just got super tight doing that. And then we came back to Nashville, and for some reason, and I think it's kind of still the same, is that people didn't really want artists to play that much around town. But I don't really know why. I guess they didn't want you to be overexposed, but we definitely didn't listen to that. Like, we played nonstop. We played tons of clubs in town. Then we would play this place called Jack's Guitar Bar, just a rough ass little club on Nolensville Road. It's gone now, but that became, kind of our home base. And we would just play there every week. We would set up in Keith's front yard every Sunday and play for hours and hours and hours. People would just show up and bring their coolers and their and their chairs, their lawn chairs, and we would just play for hours. But we got good. And then we were in a van for years playing all over the country, playing bar. We would play a bar. Then the two of us in the band would stay up. One guy would drive all night, the other guy would make sure the other one didn't fall asleep, and we would drive to the next city, do it all again. And we did that for a long time, and we just got really, really good. And I think there's a bit of that missing right now, because obviously, you can reach a lot more people quickly with social media. We obviously didn't have that back then in the 90s. So ours was old school. We just had to play clubs, and people had to see us, and then word of mouth had to get out. Now, I'm not saying that if we had social media back then, we wouldn't have done it, because it would have been a hell of a lot easier. But
Right.
But there are advantages and I think that's why still to this day, when you see Keith live, he stands out because he's played thousands and thousands of shows. I mean, he's been doing this full time since he was in ninth grade, I think, just nonstop playing clubs. That's why he's so damn good.
Jerry, it's interesting you say that, as far as like cutting your teeth, driving across the country and playing every place it would take you. So I was listening to an interview the other day with a guy named his name's Robert Gallagher, and he's one of the bookers down at Billy Bob's in Texas, and he's talking about like these like newer names like Cousin Westbrook and Braxton Keith, like all these guys who were new to the scene. He's like, it's kind of nice, I think, for guys like that who were younger and almost an overnight sensation, whereas they go from, playing for 100 people, and then, 6 months later they have a bus or two buses or whatever. And one thing he said it's interesting because he said it's almost like they didn't have to cut their teeth and like develop bad habits and be depressed and get in trouble, or whatever. So like, I mean, so you compare that to like, like obviously how you guys come up. And what I'm getting at is like, how was it cutting your teeth, and as far as like what led to like you being sober? Because you've been sober for several years now, right?
Yeah, I've been sober 12 years. Well, we definitely lived it. All those stereotypes of people on the road, we lived it for a long time. And like those van years, it was not healthy what we were doing.
Yeah.
I mean, we were in our 20s, so it wasn't as devastating as it is, at my age right now. But yeah, we definitely lived our life that we were, we lived the rock star kind of life, even long before we were rock stars. But to me, there's I don't judge any of that stuff that's going on. Like when I hear about artists that are living really hard right now, and like, I don't judge it, because I think it's almost like it's a rite of passage. You kind of have to experience that,
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to, but if you're going to do it when you're young, and just live that life, because what we do for a living, especially on tour, isn't like anything else, any other job. No other job is like that. Maybe a comedian that's on the road, but there's not a lot of jobs that you connect with that many strangers that quickly, and they're buying you drinks and all this kind of stuff. It's it's a different kind of life, and so as long as you're fairly responsible with it, I think it's good to experience it, to be honest.
Would you care to like elaborate on what it took to get you sober, like that path, and then how that impacted your songwriting or even playing?
Yeah. Well, I got to be honest. So most of my success as a writer came after I got sober. For many, many years, I had a publishing deal for probably 10 years before I had my first hit. Wrote a lot of songs, got close quite a few times, but I just couldn't break through and have that hit. But for me, I was starting to live a really unhealthy lifestyle, especially on the road. That last year that I had a intervention done on me after the 2009 tour with Keith. I can't remember what tour that was. like what it
That
was
was the
called.
last year of the best road band he had, in my opinion.
Yeah,
I don't know if I can say that or
yeah,
not.
we talked about that. You love that tour. That was a good tour. But I was not a healthy man on that tour. I was drinking really heavily, but I was also taking pills. I was, taking painkillers and Xanax and then Ambien to sleep at night. And for some reason, the painkillers, they would give me all this energy during the day when I would start to get tired before sound check. And I was just living a really unhealthy life. And it was at the end of that tour where I had one of my band members, Chris McHugh, and then my friends and my sister did a little intervention on me. And Keith had already been sober. He had gotten sober maybe 3 years before that. And so then I called him to tell him, that that was done. And he said, yeah, I've been waiting on you to call me about this. He was really good about that stuff because I'm the same. Like it's a very personal thing. And so
Sure.
unless someone really wants to change and get help, there's nothing you can do, nothing you can really say to somebody. They have to go through it. And so he never, even though he got sober, he would never judge me or say anything to me. But I think he always knew it was going to happen. So he actually ended up getting me into rehab, and it all kind of changed. But all the best stuff in my life, from having kids later in life and having success as a songwriter, and that all came after I got sober.
Do you attribute some of your success to that? Maybe the clarity that maybe you have once you got sober? And congratulations to you, by the way.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I do. For me personally, I mean, it made me a lot more focused, and I saw what was important. And I just stopped doing the stupid shit. To be honest, like I just, I was just much more focused, and I have very young daughters now. I've got a 4-year-old and a 6-year-old, and so I'm 53 years old, so I started pretty late in life, but I personally love the fact that they never get to see their dad, and that they don't see that side of their dad. They just see the sober side, and I'm thankful for that. Again, not judging other people, what they're doing. It's just for me personally, that's what worked.
After 25 years with Keith Urban, there was a change in the band, and you've been openly just positive about the experience, and nothing but good things about your time with Keith Urban and about Keith Urban. And I think there was a sort of an outpouring from the fans. Maybe they were saying some things that they were being a little bit more honest about it or something. But
yeah.
But what did that?
Yeah, I mean, still to this day.
Yeah, what did that outpouring from fans, like, what did that mean to you to at least see that they were not defending you, but, had that love for you?
I mean, it meant a lot, to be honest, because, I'm a bass player on stage with him, and not a lot of bass players don't get a ton of love from the fans. It's not like a glamorous kind of instrument, the guitar players always, even the drummers, yes, but the bass players are usually the ones that people don't notice as much. And I guess, I tried to play every show with joy and passion, and I think a lot of that love I got from those fans was because, I spent a lot of time with them out on the road. I would go out and hang out with people after shows, and just because they were just really, really supportive, good people through all those years. And there's many that I've seen from the time that I came back to Keith in 2005 until January of this year. Same faces, during the shows. And it was wild, the reaction from them and so many people, because I just put out a short little Instagram post about it, and the reaction was pretty crazy that I'd never expected. And it's still to this day. I mean, I got 3 messages today about it. And so, yeah, it meant a lot. It's been a tough time because it's all I've known for so long, and I love playing. I still loved playing with Keith. So he made that decision, and I don't really know to this day really why, but that's not up to me. I know that, I gave everything on stage, and it's his group. And if he wants to go a different direction, he obviously has total right to do that. And, what I've said about him in public over the last 6 months and really my whole career is true. Like, he's a good man, and I was extremely grateful to play with him every night. There was rarely a night on stage where I wouldn't look over at him while he was crushing it and go like, shit, he's good. Like, damn.
Yeah.
Like, after all those years, it never got old. He's still that good. And he loves to play music. And he was inspiring to be on stage with.
Yeah, it's cool you say that, Jeremy. Obviously, I've told you before. Yeah, I've seen you guys, several times over the years.
Yeah,
I mean, you can just sense that, just like brotherhood and just camaraderie between you two. And back to like the band introduction, as far as like what Chad was saying about the fans, loving you as much as they love Keith. I've watched all the band guys be introduced and have play a little snippet or whatever. But whenever Jerry Flowers come up, the whole arena just erupted.
that's funny.
People knew you. And they loved it.
Well, I appreciate it. Again, like, they showed me so much love over the years, and so I would definitely show them the same love. Give them as much of my time as possible when we were outside of a show or before walking into gigs or just going out and hanging out with people after shows. I rarely, in all those years, had a negative experience with anybody out there.
I remember the day you made that post, and I think I remember seeing Holy Kennedy like comment on your Instagram post, and then it was like 30 minutes later, I saw like national articles coming out, and people are like, they're like, oh, yeah, he's axed the band. Everybody gave you love. They gave Nathan love.
Yeah.
Nobody gave Terrence any love at all. And I'm like, wait, he did have a drummer he fired too, Like,
right. I didn't see a lot of that. Because me and Nathan were up front of the stage,
sure.
So we got a lot more of the spotlight. Nathan's another one of those guys. It's just I've never seen a show with him where he didn't give everything. The dude would walk off stage just drenched in sweat, full of energy. Yeah. And we're not young dudes anymore, but yet we still played with a lot of energy. And he actually, it's funny, like when we made the announcement, we made it on the same day. Tyler Hubbard called him that same day and asked him to be in his band.
Wow.
Because Tyler opened for us in 2022.
Yeah.
And he just loved Nathan's energy on stage and immediately wanted him to be in his band. And which didn't surprise me at all, because Nathan is just awesome. And he's another one of those guys too, that if a fan ever wanted to come up and talk and take pictures and just hang, he would give all his time to them. Yeah. So I think over the years that connects with people and that means something to people. So.
And one thing, I'm sorry, Chad. One thing is like obviously, if you don't care to elaborate on your years with like the Dixie Chicks and everybody you've been with, how is it going from playing with a band like that on like a travel side to with Keith, where you're in a bus and probably flying, private or whatever? Like, explain that and just how it makes things, more suitable for like a personal life.
When I started playing with the Dixie Chicks, this was in 98, I joined them. And so the branch, Keith and I were together from 93 until 98. And then after that broke up, I spent a little time on the road with a group from Bakersfield called Big House, which if anybody doesn't know Big House, go listen to their first record and anything they've done, but they're an incredible band. and so I played with them for a little while, and then Emily from the Dixie Chicks, she called me and asked me to join to join their tour, because we had met them years before, before they even had a song out. We were on a radio seminar kind of thing, and we all became friends. So from that point, all I had experienced was life in a van. With the ranch, I've got a picture of it somewhere in my phone. We experienced one day with a bus. For some reason, the label gave us a bus for something. I don't even know what it was, some kind of special show. And that was the one day we had a bus. And then we were super excited. It's funny, the picture that we have, because Keith sent it to me about a year ago. Like, we're all out there outside of the bus, super excited. And of course, the next week we're back to the van. So that's all I experienced. So when I went to the Dixie Chicks, they had two buses. At that point, we were opening for Tim McGraw. And then we did the Little Fair tour, and then I did the Fly tour in 2000. But at that point, like, going from a van where you're driving every night to a tour bus, I thought I finally achieved everything. I finally made it. And that life went on for a long time. And then, obviously I joined Keith. I came back to Keith in 2005. And for the longest time, we were, on tour buses too. And then it shifted in the last, 5-6 years to flying a lot more, which made a huge difference with a family life, because that means we're not doing these long drives to get to the first shows. And so you're just home a lot more. But yeah, that first experience with the Chicks, that was a game changer for me, because I'd never. Oh my God, absolutely! And we were on the Tim McGraw tour, so that means they had catering. They actually had people cooking food for them. We never had any of that stuff before. So it was an amazing experience. And I got to say, those girls, there's been a lot of artists that have, I think of labels too. They've tried to put together something that's kind of similar to them, but really, I've never seen anybody do what they do, because they were, for one, incredible musicians, like over the top, incredible musicians, incredible singers, but they also had an attitude like I'd never seen before. They said whatever they wanted. It got them in trouble, but when I was around them, they were just so bold, and nobody was like that at that time. No female artist in country, especially, was like that, where they would just talk about stuff that would embarrass people, but that's what made them special. And so I was really grateful for my time with them.
Yeah.
Something I'm sorry, Chad.
I kind of liken them to sort of the punk rock version of country at that time. And
my God.
Like you said, they sort of brought a masculine energy to very cute female fronted outfit.
Yeah.
And I really,
the very first day I met them, the very first time we saw them, it was in California. We were at a radio seminar, and they had seen us play in a club. They came up to us after our club show, and these three beautiful girls, and saying they have a band and they were going to do a radio performance at a restaurant the next day, and they invited us. So we were back. It was like in the back room of a restaurant, and there was just like a long table, and so all these radio PDs were there, and their wives, and and so it was my first time seeing them. It was just the three girls and a guitar player. They stood up in the front part of the table, and I've told this story before. I can't repeat the joke, but Natalie made she made a crude joke in front of these people. And apparently the next day when we saw them, Natalie told me that she had to call every single one of those PDs and apologize to them because she made a real dirty joke. And this was before they even had a song on the radio. They were just that tight. They just didn't give a damn. They were funny as hell.
Wow.
Cancel before cancel was a thing.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. And, that was just so funny that she literally, because I guess the label got mad and they told her she had to apologize. So she had to call every single one of them and personally apologize for the joke, which the joke wasn't that bad, but it was, I hadn't heard a female country singer at the time make jokes like that. So
that makes me respect them a little bit more, as they had a lot to lose at that time.
Oh, they had everything to lose.
It's easy to be punk rock when you have, a lot in the bank account and you're kind of already on its path. But if you're trying to make it, man, that makes me respect them even more.
Oh, especially then, because this was before their first single came out, which was, I think it was There's Your Trouble. And it was probably maybe a month or two before that video came out. And so they had a ton to lose, because at that point, the artist will do everything they can to play nice with the radio people, because radio was very, very powerful. And they just didn't care. They just did their own thing.
It's a Midwest Mixtape Podcast. Joined here with songwriter, bass player, badass musician, and the up-tempo guy, Jerry Powers. Jerry, before we get out of here, talk about some of the things that you have coming up and some of the things you're part of. I know that you were just a part of Old Dominion release that they just released a single. Anything else you want?
Yeah. Well, that one's an interesting one, because I don't know if I really told many people this, but I was writing that song with them when Keith called me to let me know that he was going to go in a different direction. So I was literally writing the song with Matt Ramsey and Trevor Rosen and Jordan Reynolds. And I got the call from Keith. So I, went downstairs, took the call, and then that happened. And so I walked back upstairs, and I was just kind of in a daze, because like, whoa, what just happened? And I told them, and they were blown away. And I just thought, well, we might as well finish the song. And so we finished the song. And then that song is what they released 2 weeks ago, Water My Flowers, which is really, really exciting that something that positive came out of that day. But that's one of those that I'm really proud of. That's a really good song. And just to have a song on an Old Dominion record, to me, has been a dream for years. They're special. They are very, very special. So I'm doing that. Yeah, they're incredible. I've got that out. I've got Keith's new single, the radio single Straight Line, that's out right now. And I think it's moving up the charts, and it's in the 20s, I think. So hopefully that keeps doing well. I'm just writing all the time with different people. I'm, looking at some different things. I get hit up a lot by young artists and songwriters and players to meet me for coffee and to give advice, that kind of thing. And I do that a lot. I'll meet people around town, just to hear their story, because I had someone that helped me when I was 18. A guy named Pat Thrall, who was playing with Meatloaf at the time, and he gave me a ton of advice when I was a young guy, which made a massive difference to me. It gave me a lot of the belief in myself that I could do this, because it's a scary business. You think it's a scary business until you're in it, then you realize it's kind of a small town kind of. It's not as big as business as what most people think. So I'll meet people and talk to these young folks over coffee and over Instagram, and I actually enjoy that. So I'm thinking about doing some more of that, maybe even starting a little mentorship online, and then I'm also getting back into helping people, artists, with their shows. I was getting hired there for a while. Dustin Lynch and Jordan Davis, and I was hired. Bailey Zimmerman did his first show and put his band together. And I just worked with Sam Hunt again about 3 weeks ago. I'm wanting to do some more of that, where I'm just helping people put their actual live shows together, just because I've got so many years experience doing that, and it keeps me in the game. It's fun. So I'm doing quite a few different things right now.
Dylan is very in tune with a lot of the unsigned bands and artists in our area. And I want to put a couple on the radar if you don't mind texting. If I could send you a couple on.
Oh yeah, man, I'd love that.
And then also the picture that you're talking about with you guys in front of the band, if you can find that on your phone, I want to include that on the interview if possible.
Yeah. I'll send that to you.
That'd be cool.
It's a good one. I actually put something on Instagram yesterday on my stories. It's gone now. I guess it's 24 hours gone, but someone had found this video of us playing a TV show in like 1997 in Australia, playing a song called Desiree. And it was wild to see that again. Like, I can't remember that show, what we did, but it was fun to see us, because again, it's a trio, but it's like, damn, we sounded pretty damn good for three people. It was fun, man. But I'll definitely send you that picture.
You're talking about the sort of the music business, and we're on the very outskirts of it, but we do talk to a lot of artists, and we talk to a lot of publicists and managers and record labels. And I think maybe before I was really involved in some of this stuff, I just always thought it was like a dog eat dog kind of world where everybody's trying to just, walk and run over each other to get to that slice high. And I've actually found it to be the very opposite of that. It is even like when we work with people in New York and LA and Chicago, Nashville, everybody seems to know everybody. If you do good work and you keep up with some of those professional, you show up on time and
that's it.
It's everybody seems to know everybody. Everybody has worked with everybody, and one thing can lead to another, And it sounds like that's kind of what you're talking about too, and that's what your experience is.
Man, I grew up hearing the same thing, that it's all sharks and everyone's trying to get you, and I don't see any of that. Like, none of it. I've been here since 93 now, so 33 years, I'm sorry. And I don't experience any of that, man. I just went to a memorial last week for Ben Vaughn, who was the president of Warner Chappell Publishing, and he was instrumental in my songwriting career. He signed me to my first deal, and then he just signed me again last year to Warner. And we went to his memorial last Monday, and somebody that was speaking said it the best. It said, Nashville is a big city, but Music Row is a small town, and everybody knows each other. And I don't experience anybody trying to backstab, do any of that stuff. To me, it's like if you are just kind of a jerk to everybody, it doesn't matter how talented you are, you're eventually going to get weeded out, because this town is about camaraderie, and people work together, publishers work together, labels work together. To me, it's actually a kind of a beautiful place, It's not this scary, horrible place that people think. And I just think it takes time. The ones that succeed, to me, are the ones that because there's going to be rough times where you're making no money. It's going to be very lean. The ones that stick it out through that are the ones that, and treat people with a lot of respect and love. Those are the ones that tend to rise up, because you don't get to be Keith Urban and Kenny Chesney and Dierks Bentley and Luke Bryan and all these people at that level, Jason Aldean. You don't get to that level by treating people bad. They treat people with a lot of respect and love, and that's why they're still at the top of their game after all these years.
Now, that's one thing I will attest to is, I was talking to a good friend of mine a couple of weeks ago, who's one of the partners at WME, one of the agencies there in town. And we were talking about just, about like how, just, on like the business side of things, which is, the side that I'm on from like a promoter standpoint. And one thing he said, he's like, no matter how big of a buyer you are or artist or venue or whatever, he's like, what we do is still service based. And I really appreciate that, Yeah, because it's so true from top to bottom. From your backline guys to your band to your promoter to your man. I mean, it's all service based. And very much a small world. And,
man. Like I got to know. I think I was talking about her not too long ago, but Chris Lacey, who is now the president of Warner Records here in town. I've known her for years, but she was the one that would call me and ask me to help her put Bailey Zimmerman's band together, that kind of stuff. And when you talk to her, Like the last thing you think of is she is some big mogul that's out to destroy you. Like she's just an awesome person, just a great hang. And everybody that I've known, Scott Hendricks was like that, is like that too. And all these guys.
Talk about a legend in the industry,
oh
Scott Hendricks.
Legend. Incredible, but incredible guy too. And Mike Dungan, who was the president of Capitol Records for 20 some years, man, like he's just a dude. He's just a great guy. And so I think that's, you know, I've said it before. Tony Robbins says this quote: "Success leaves clues." Like if you want to look at the ones that have been around here for the longest and have stayed at the top for the longest, they all have that similar thread to them, you know, where they just love music, they love what they do, and they treat people with respect. And so it's not rocket science, you know.
One thing that got me, I was really surprised that he even like emailed me back. This is probably been 2.5 years ago. But I hit up Darren Murphy, you know, at CAA. Oh, I said, hey man, this is what I want to do. So I got mine on a book, you know, Keith for a gig in Jonesboro. You guys played it years ago, whatever. And he took the time to respond to my email, called me and said, hey man, to be honest with you, like, I appreciate it. You know, keep trying. However, Keith's it's a Live Nation thing. Like I'm not going to do. I'm sorry. I was like, you know what?
Yeah.
The fact that he took time to reach out to me, who's like 26 years old at this point, you know, to just explain that, like just how much that meant, you know. And I guess
Darren Murphy is exactly like that.
Oh my God.
A few years ago, I started going through this thing where I wanted to sit down with legends in this business and just hear their story and just kind of just take little bits and pieces from their career, stuff that I don't normally do as far as the record label side or the or booking. And he's with CAA and he's booked so many massive artists.
Oh my gosh!
But I called him and he sat down with me and had lunch with me and told me his whole story. And same with Scott Hendricks, I did the same thing where he let me come up to his house and spend hours with him, and he just hung out and told me how they got to this point, this place in their life. And you know, it's pretty amazing. Those guys will still give their time over to people, which, you know, that says a lot about them as people too.
You know what gets me, Jerry, is that, you know, how many people in this business, myself included, get in it by accident. You know, like you know, I went to school for funeral science, and now I'm a concert promoter. Or like Darren Murphy went to school for finance, and he's a booking agent.
Exactly.
You hear all these stories. It's like, but we all ended up like in this place, you know. And I think it's a really beautiful thing, you know.
Oh, it's awesome. I love it.
How often do you keep in touch with like ex-bandmates from like Keith or the Chicks, or whatever? Because I actually ran across a post, I guess, not long after Randy Fletcher died, your production manager for a long time. And I think Brian Nutter posted a picture on Facebook I saw, and it was like you and him and McHugh and all together. I'm like, damn, that's so cool to see. I can imagine the conversations you guys had. But yes, I was curious, how often do you guys talk? And I mean, is he even in music anymore? Yeah, I don't think he plays, does he?
Brian?
Yeah.
Yeah, Brian actually he's shifted into, he builds his own guitars. Now I just noticed he's got a new YouTube channel called The Nutter Professor, because he is so incredibly good at fixing guitars, building guitars. He's crazy talent on that level. So, but yeah, we actually texted with him last week. And Chris McHugh, like, still to this, you know, we're still great friends. All of us, Danny Rader and Seth Roush and all those guys, man.
What about Sweet B? Is he still around?
Sweet B? Oh yeah. He's not in Nashville, but yeah, I'll definitely keep in touch with him. And no, we're all still good friends. You know, we went through a lot of stuff together on the road, and
sure.
No, I still love all those guys. I don't have a negative word to say about any of them.
Chad, go ahead before my fast five to wrap it up.
Well, we already got one, so now it's fast four because you got my age already. So.
Just enjoyed this conversation, Jerry, and enjoyed you pulling back the curtains a little bit on the music business and side of things.
Yeah, man.
Such a lovely chat, and just looking forward.
I love your shirt, by the way, Ice Cube.
Oh yeah,
super underrated. One of the greatest rappers of all time.
Yeah, I agree, and I'm a music fan. Like I'm a metalhead. I love country. I love rap. I like.
Yeah, I can see that from your background there.
Stevie Nicks here. Yeah. So I'm a music fan. So, and I appreciate
it's great.
and music has meant so much to me. You know, that's why we launched this podcast and doing what we're doing is, you know, we want to highlight people that feel the same way that we do, that it's music's, you know, part of our lifeblood and
Yeah,
I'm sure where we would be without it. So again, appreciate your time today. of
course, man. And and definitely send me any local artists you think have something. That's part of what I'm doing right now too. Is a friend named Matt Kahlberg. We're looking at maybe, you know, getting involved in developing new artists right now. So I'm wanting to find young talent. So if you have somebody, send them my way.
Well, I have a quick question for you. You being a Nashville guy, and this guy's been around Nashville a long time, but I just don't feel like he gets his due. Is Chris Canterbury? Are you familiar with him?
No, I don't know Chris.
Okay, I got to send you that then.
Okay.
He's a songwriter in the Nashville circles, but I'm not sure how active he is. I want to send you his stuff.
Okay, I don't think we've worked together. So yeah, definitely hook me up, man, because there's a lot of talent in this town.
All right.
Can I do my fast five?
Let's do it.
All right.
All right, fast five. Jerry, mom and dad are coming home, right? In the station wagon. You're born March 28th, 1972. Take a guess.
Yeah.
What was the number one song on radio that day? Can you guess?
When I was born?
Yeah.
Wait, what chart?
Billboard Hot 100.
Oh man. 1972.
I'll give you a hint. You guys have covered this band in the past.
Oh, I got to guess.
Was it CCR? No.
It was A Horse with No Name by the band America.
Really?
Yeah. Number one.
Number one. All
number
right.
one.
Hey,
yeah.
See, I had a good start.
Dan Peake of America has passed away. His family lives probably 4 houses that way.
Really?
Oh, he's originally from my town, Farmington, Missouri. Yeah.
Wow, that's awesome.
They keep
I met one of those guys in Australia too, not too long ago.
They keep their clean, tight. They're out there mowing it every day, I guess. I don't know. I can't compete with some of these retired neighbors. I can't compete with them.
Yeah, right, man. They take pride.
Favorite venue and worst venue? You've played them all.
Oh, shoot. Worst venue. That's a tough one, man. I can't.
Oh, come on. I book concerts. Even I have my worst venue pick.
I mean, there were some ones that definitely, you know, they're probably gone now because they were around for a long time. Man, it's hard for me to say what the worst one was. I mean, I played a lot of rough places, a lot of rough bars.
About the one you haven't played yet? It's worse until it's the best, right?
Yeah. And I will say some of the best gigs to me are anything that's promoted by Brian O'Connell.
Oh yeah, Live Nation. Oh yeah.
Yeah, Faster Horses. That's one of his. What's the one that's at the Gorge in Washington? It's hard for me to remember.
Oh my God, my mind just went blank. Yes, so Lake Shake in Chicago. Up there is Watershed. Yeah, Watershed.
Yes, that's incredible. But Faster Horses to me was, as far as like the summertime festivals, that's the best I've ever played.
Well, speaking of Watershed at the Gorge,
great.
That's when you guys did a co-headline with John Mayer, right? Back in 2010, I think.
Ooh, that was a good one.
Yeah.
It was the Ava Brothers, Keith Urban, John Mayer on one ticket, and that was talk about a show. Woo, man!
No, I don't think Bill Gates could afford that lineup today. I don't know.
That was a good show. But I can't. Worst venue? It's hard to say. I played some rough ass clubs in the day that where the backstage was pretty rough, but it's hard for me to remember. You remember we were all drinking a lot back
rolling then, through here. Last thing you Googled, was it?
Last thing I Googled? Well, this morning I Googled somebody.
Who is Rich Redmond? I'm just kidding.
Who was Rich Redmond? No, I need to Google that one. I Googled something called a website called Everyday. Every day is Saturday. I was told to look this guy up. He's a motivational guy, and I was just looking his story up this morning. So every day is Saturday.
What about the biggest number in your phone? I'm sure you have a ton of them. Who's the biggest number in your phone?
I mean, obviously Keith. I think I have. I don't know if it's probably not current. Let me see if I have it. I got Morgan Wallens in here. But he probably changes that. He probably changes that every week. I don't know. That's been a while since I've called him, since I've texted him. Now, I mean, I've got quite a few, but it's funny. Like what we were talking about earlier is like when you get to know them, you realize like they're just dudes. You know, they're not that different. You know.
What advice would you give yourself if you could go back? Looking back, advice you give yourself.
Dang. Oof.
Say the best for last, right?
I would, the best advice I would have given myself back then is, and I still kick myself to this day, is during the 90s when the ranch in Nashville, we had become like a pretty cool band to go see. So we were the hip kind of band. We didn't, we couldn't get radio to play us and couldn't sell any records, but around town we were pretty damn cool for a while. And I'm kicking myself that I didn't try to be a country songwriter then. I've had a lot of success and a lot of luck, but anybody that wrote the hits in the 90s, they're in a completely different financial class than current songwriters are. So that's what I would say. Right. More songs in the 90s.
Gary Flowers on the Midwest Mixtape Podcast and Dylan from Golden Eagle Entertainment. Thanks so much, guys. I really enjoyed this conversation. Let's do it again sometime.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Dylan.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Thank you,
man.
Jerry.
Anytime, guys.